Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kat, and today I have some book recommendations for you about disability representation. July is Disability Pride Month, and so I wanted to share with you 12 books with some disability representation. I've tried to include as many genres as possible so that everybody could find something that they enjoy. The main segment that's not covered though is going to be thriller, noir, horror, because those are genres that I don't read into. But otherwise I have some fantasy, I have some romance, some nonfiction, literary, a bunch of different things. And starting with one of my favorite genres, fantasy, the first book is Godkiller by Hannah Kenner. I am currently reading this. I'm about 80 pages in and I'm really enjoying it. So in this world, you have a lot of gods that can sprout out from people's prayers and desires, and there is a kingdom where they are actually forbidden. And so we're following Kissen, who is a god killer. She's making a living by pursuing and killing gods, and she enjoys it. That's until she meets Inara, who is a young girl from a noble family who is bound to a god, which is not something that's supposed to happen. And so Kissen is faced with that mystery and also dilemma that she would much rather get rid of that god, but also she doesn't want to risk killing the little girls. I'm really enjoying the writing style. I think it's very well written. The world building is also excellent. It's very specific and unique and brimming with interesting details. And so far, the disability representation is also excellent. So definitely enjoying this a lot. And I'll probably talk about it more in a future video once I'm done with it. Next, we have The Spear Cut Through Water by Jimenez. I have not read this yet, but I'm very curious about it. I've heard excellent things about this book. This is a world where the royal family is causing a lot of damage to the people they are ruling. They're very much having a rule of terror, and they're drawing their power from a god who is buried underneath the royal palace. Until one day this god is freed, and with the help of two of her main characters is trying to find freedom for good. My understanding is that the disability representation in this book is pretty good, with one of the main character missing an arm. In this world, in this culture, their disability is also a sign of punishment for being a coward or being a criminal. So on top of the adaptations that they need to find and develop to cope with their physical disability, this also very much impacts their relationships and how they interact with others. So again, I've heard very good things about this one. Then we have a very well-loved fantasy novel. This is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and this book is a heist in a fantasy world, which sounds very exciting, and it has quite a bit of disability representation, both physical and mental. So it tackles PTSD, gambling addiction, limping, and chronic pain as well, from what I've read. So it's on my 25 for 2025 list, so I'm very excited to get to this at some point. Moving on to some literary / contemporary fiction. The first book I would like to recommend is True Biz by Sarah Novik. This is also on my TBR. I'm really keen to read this. It is set in a residential school for the deaf, and so we are following three main characters from that school. Two are students and one is their teacher, and they all have different path and different relationship or situation related to deafness. I think the first one is kind of new to the school, and it's their first time actually meeting another person who is deaf. The other character is kind of the golden boy of the school, very popular, but at home he has a little sister who is just born and she's hearing, and that kind of upends his world. And then finally we have the teacher who is hearing in a school for the deaf, but she is a child of deaf parents. We're following the trajectory of the three characters. I think it's a book with a lot of action, a lot of school drama, and a lot of emotional turmoil. I think it's going to be quite interesting. Next, another book I really want to pick up is Guiding Emily by Barbara Hinsky. And this is the story of Emily, obviously, who has it all. She has a successful career, she just got married. Unfortunately, during her honeymoon, she has an accident that causes her retinas to detach. And so she's undergoing a lot of treatments and I think operations as well, trying to save her sight. But unfortunately, the result is that she's gonna become blind. And so she's dealing with the aftermath of that accident and that diagnosis. I believe it's a dual point of view, and we also get the point of view of a dog that is gonna become her guiding dog. So I'm really excited to read this. I think it's gonna be surely a very emotional read. Then we have Pod by Layleen Paul, and the main character of this book is Ia. She is a spinner dolphin with a disability. She has a form of deafness that means she's not able to perform some of the rituals from her clan. Unfortunately, a tragedy hits her family and she believes that she is to blame for it, that her disability is responsible, and so she decides to sacrifice herself and to leave her pod. I've read another book from this author, The Bees, which I really enjoyed. I was so surprised by how well written it was, how exciting and engaging it was. So I'm very keen to read this one as well. Then I have a young adult book to recommend. This is A Time to Dance by Padma Venkatraman. And in this story, we are following Veda, who is a brilliant and talented dancer of Bharatanatyam, which is a classical style of Indian dance. Sadly, she is involved in an accident which leads to her being amputated below her knee, and so she believes that she is not going to be able to dance anymore. She ends up meeting with a doctor who provides her with a prosthetic leg, and so she starts to get hope again and to start dancing again. This is a very interesting book because it's told in verses. It's very poetic, very minimalistic. The chapters are very short. It's very much of a quick read, but I was really impressed by how much the author was able to pack in those few words and how emotionally impactful again it was. So I really love this and really highly recommend. Moving on to romance, I would like to recommend Out on a Limb by Anna Bonham Young. In this book, we are following Wen, who has a limb difference, and she's at a Halloween party and she meets a guy, Bo, who happens to have a prosthetic leg, and they click, they have really good banter, they like each other, so they have a one-night stand, and the story should end there, but obviously it doesn't. Very quickly, Ween realizes that she's pregnant, and so she tells Bo, and he decides to be involved because she wants to keep the baby. I was very skeptical, if not to say reluctant, to read this book because the pregnancy trope is really not my thing, but I think it was actually very well done, and I know that a lot of people adore this book and are in the same position that they don't really like this kind of trope, but they actually enjoy the book despite or even because of it, because again, the story is so very well crafted. It's a really cute, lovely romance with great disability representation. So if you're feeling in the mood for some love this summer, then that's the perfect book to pick. Then my recommendation for historical fiction is A Sign of Her Own by Sarah March. In this story, we are following Ellen Lark, who is a young woman just about to get married when she receives a visit from Alexander Graham Bell. Ellen is deaf and she was one of his students learning visible speech. At the time, he told her about his ambition to create the telephone. Now, at the time of his visit, he's on the cusp of fame and wealth, and so he's seeking her help in the disputed patent for the telephone. The thing, though, is that Ellen has another story to tell. She wants to talk about how Bell kind of used her and his other deaf student and betrayed them. In order to tell this story, to tell her story, she has to find her own voice. I think this sounds so compelling, and so yeah, I'm very curious to get to that book as well. And then to wrap this up, I have 3 nonfiction books to talk about. The first one is Demystifying Disability by Emily Lado. This is very much of a handbook / guide about disability. The subtitle is What to Know, What to Say, How to Be an Ally. It's a fantastic book, very easy to read, very practical, and a great tool if you want to understand a little bit more about disability, educate yourself, and be an ally. So it's gonna cover things like the social theory of disability versus the medical one, how to recognize and avoid ableism, how to make accessibility a standard, and how to identify and speak up against stereotypes in media. Then Disability Visibility by Alice Wong. It's a collection of essays told in the first person from a variety of people, from activists, actors, artists, lawyers, with, again, a wide range of disabilities, either visible or hidden. So I'm really curious to read this. I think it's a great opportunity to have a bit of, not an overview because there is so much range and diversity in the disability community, but having a glimpse of the lived experience of different people with different disabilities, and just understanding a little bit, starting to get a sense of their lives and their lived experiences. And then finally, the last book is Sitting Pretty by Rebecca Tossig. This is a memoir told in the form of essays from a disability activist. She grew up in the 90s and kind of frustrated with the representation of disability at the time, which was either monstrous, think The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or inspirational like Helen Keller, or the caricature of Forrest Gump, for example. So in this book, she wants to show a picture of disability that is more complex and nuanced, but also more rooted, I guess, in daily life. So those are the 12 books I wanted to talk about. I hope you found some good recommendations and maybe some things you might want to pick up in July for Disability Pride Month. Let me know in the comments below if you have some books to recommend, or if there is something from that list that you are keen to read. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.